Well, hello and welcome back to History's a Blast. We're in Philippi, West Virginia, where we were a couple of months ago. We're here for their Philippi Days Blue and Gray reunion, commemorating the anniversary of the first land battle of the Civil War in June of 1861. So come along. It's early June and we're back on the Civil War Trail in West Virginia in this episode to explore 3 battle sites from what's come to be known as the First Campaign. We start at Philippi on the Tigris Valley River during the post-pandemic shutdown revival of Philippi Days, commemorating the first land battle of the Civil War, an important victory for the North that we learned about when we were here a few months ago in March. There's a link to our video about that earlier visit in the description below. Next, we'll visit the site of the Battle of Rich Mountain, fought several weeks after Philippi, with similar bad results for the secessionists, near the town of Beverly. And we'll end up in Parsons, farther northeast along US 219, in the upper Cheat River Valley, and the scene 2 days later of another Civil War first. Confederate Commander Robert Garnett became the first general to be killed in the Civil War. The excellent Five River Campground in Parsons is our base camp on this trip. Our route from here to Philippi takes us north out of town for about 6 miles on State Route 72, then west over Laurel Mountain to Route 38 to join US 250 just south of Philippi. Route 38 has its steep and windy parts on both sides of the summit, but we found it to be well maintained and not heavily trafficked at midday. Still, you have to keep your eyes on the road and maintain a safe speed. The posted 55-mile-an-hour speed limit is often, to borrow an expression from local residents, a damned lie. But after the near miss of the deer, we made it to Philippi without further incident. Now, the Battle of Philippi, or the Philippi Races as it came to be known, began with an artillery shots from across the river by Union artillery, and they're on the other side of the river here. And here on this side we have a unit of Confederate artillery, mountain howitzers, and they're loading, and they've been doing demonstrations all weekend. I think they're getting ready to do a firing demonstration.
Okay. You'll still jump a little. They are drilling right now. So
that was a drill. Okay. A series of mock battles are staged during Philippi Days to commemorate the action that took place here on June 3, 1861. But they do not portray what actually happened. If you watched our Bridge at Philippi video, you know that the actual so-called battle was a sunrise disaster for the secessionists. About 800 newly mustered volunteers who were not yet properly organized and equipped, just waking up or milling around in the street when artillery shells suddenly began to land among them as a column of cheering Unionists came storming across the bridge and another column attacked on this side of the river. Of course, that's not how this commemoration plays out. As far as my educated eyes could tell, I was a reenactor back in the 1980s. Almost all of the participants were dedicated to portraying typical Civil War soldiers and were properly clothed, equipped, and drilled. But there are some things about small-town Civil War commemorations, both North and South, that don't seem to have changed since my days as a reenactor. Such as this child flag bearer. Confederates always outnumbering the Federals. At Philippi in 1861, the Federals outnumbered the Confederates almost 4-1. But Civil War reenactments always have more Confederates than Federals, which, and this is a hobby, don't forget, I have always attributed to the underdog theory. Everybody wants to be the underdog. Nobody wants to be the winner. The rebels did not have artillery at Philippi, but artillery duels attract crowds, so and today, the Rebs are on the watch, so they easily stop the half-hearted Yankee probe on the bridge. On the plus side, there were a goodly number of women very handsomely attired for walking out as proper middle-class ladies, although without a proper escort. And it all ends with a climactic charge of sorts, followed by a friendly intermingling of the former opponents, to the appreciative applause of the audience. So all's well that ends well, as another historical character supposedly once wrote. The Battle of Philippi featured another first in the Civil War, an amputation. We dealt with that, and today's International Prosthetics Manufacturing Corporation, originally founded by the victim, James Hanger, in our Bridge at Philippi video as well.
Without medication and without his instruments of choice.
A reenactment of the historical amputation, actually a narrated step-by-step demonstration, complete with spurting blood, has been a tradition of this festival for years. And given the lack of an anesthetic in the original operation, this was about as realistic as possible with an inanimate mannequin. After the amputation demonstration, I had a great conversation about Chickamauga, which we had recently visited, with none other than General James Longstreet, aka Dan Carr, who really knows his subject. I just finished talking with General James Longstreet, and I won't tell you what was said, because so much of it is very controversial. Right. And, small world, he, Dan, not Longstreet, grew up in Parsons and gave us valuable directions that helped guide us in our walk around the Civil War site there later on. Next stop, Rich Mountain via Elkins and Beverly. Oh, good. We stopped at the Beverly Heritage Center to orient ourselves before heading up the mountain. The gift shop, very good library. Very good selection of books, both on the Civil War, some books on the West Virginia role in the Civil War, and general history, regional history. I looked at that, a lithograph of George McClellan, something no Civil War room is complete without. Go on into some of the display rooms. Here's the Battle of Rich Mountain. It's a three-dimensional interactive map. Here's camp. See if we can find Camp Garnet. I don't see the lights. Anyway, have a nice little terrain map of the events of the Battle of Rich Mountain. The inevitable mountain howitzer. OVM, Ohio Volunteer Militia, I believe that stands for. After the war, returned to peace. I think we're kind of going back in time here. Yeah, we're going back earlier, beginning of the war. Here's McClellan, hoped to secure Western Virginia to the Union. Remember, at this time he was a relatively unknown, commanding with a commission from the governor of Ohio, his native state. The Stanton-Parkersburg Turnpike. That's what this whole campaign was all about, was the control of the main and only real road, commercial road, viable road between Parkersburg, West Virginia on the Ohio River across from Ohio, and Stanton, Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. Here we have the struggle for the turnpike. Yeah. Old wagon wheel with a wooden axle hub. Now, as the Federal Army moved on Philippi, General Robert Garnett fortified two mountaintop positions to the southeast on Rich and Laurel Mountains. The Rich Mountain battle site is reached by turning west from US 250 in Beverly and following a narrow country road that turns to gravel at the base of the mountain and winds for several miles to the crest. Garnett was outnumbered, so he had to guess which way the Federals would come. And he guessed wrong. While a strong Union force threatened his main position on Laurel Mountain, another Union brigade, led by another general who we met during our Meriwether Goes South series, William Rosecrans, overwhelmed the small unit he had placed here on Rich Mountain.
So we're at the top of the road leading to the Battle of Rich Mountain battlefield, and we are surrounded here by interpretive plaques, which we'll visit in a minute. What's really impressive is how really inaccessible this is to anybody but the most hardy Civil War buff. And yet there's an old historical marker over there that dates back pretty far, maybe into the at least into the 1960s. I think. I haven't looked at the dates on these things, but there are new ones. There's a new placard over there, and beyond that is a gravestone, which I'm sure has been here for a long time. It's a Civil War gravestone. But interesting. So we'll walk around and check this place out. We'll walk over here to this one. Somebody's had target practice. Well, we must be in West Virginia. This is the remnants of a stable. Confederate forces made their stand. A small log stable was at the point of action. The large foundation stones still show its location. A lone Confederate cannon stood beside the stable. And you can see here the footings or the stones. You get a sense for how high up and remote and isolated these small actions were. 3 regiments on the Union side and 1 regiment on the Confederate side here. And yet it was a very decisive victory for the Union early in the war, in what's being called now the First Campaign. Here's a interpretive sign explaining the overall campaign leading to the Battle of Rich Mountain. No, besides that's a Park Service road. Rich Mountain battle was waged near the Hart House and barn, where the Delagnals, 310 men, held Rosecrans' forces of 3 regiments for 4 hours before surrendering. This forced the overall commander, Pegram, to retreat, and his army was captured. Oh well. Battle of Rich Mountain. Fought here July 11th, 1861. This is the site of the Hart House, erected by the Daly Valley Bend Roritan Club in 1989. Let's go up here and take a look at this sign, and I'll check myself for ticks and get the heck out of this tall grass. How's that? David Hart. Later he joined an Indiana regiment and he died of illness in 1862. Well, the Harts had quite a view.
With the Federals on Rich Mountain in his rear, Garnett's only option was to retreat northeast to cross the Cheat River at Corrick's Ford in present-day Parsons. Here the Federals caught up with Garnett's rear guard, and he was killed while trying to organize a defense. The events surrounding the fight and its aftermath are commemorated by a town park and interpretive signs along the Allegheny Highlands Bicycle Trail as it passes through Parsons, just a 15-minute walk from our campsite. The Corrick House, where the Federals took Garnett's body for safekeeping, still stands on the bluff overlooking the ford. A bronze plaque embedded in a large rock was placed along the highway in days gone by, and it's still there. But today it's well below the grade behind a steel guardrail on a shoulderless roadway, so we'll have to view it from the safety of the trail. The site of Corrick's Ford has also changed with the inevitable forces of nature. This concrete dike in the foreground probably dates to the aftermath of a big flood here in 1985. Today, kayakers cool off in Shaver's Fork of the Cheat River, just a few yards from where musket balls once flew. Thanks for watching. Please click the thumbs up icon to like the video and share with your friends via email or social media. I'd love to have you subscribe, and if you do, please click the little bell icon so you'll get notifications whenever I post a new video. Goodbye.